Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sword and Tea, a chat show in the TTRPG space with TTRPG designers, creators, artists, and the like. I am Derek Sword. I'm your host for this time, and many times here. In fact, I use he, him pronouns, and I am joined by two very lovely folks from Dynaberry Press. So, thank you to Quinn, thank you to Nova for joining us today. It is so very lovely to have you both.
Hi,
And
hello.
hi, hello.
Yeah, great to
Uh,
be here.
Well, it's great to have you. We're here to talk about a new game from Dynaberry Press. Very new game, as the backer kit has only a few days left on it. And this is Dragon Reactor, um, a game that had a tagline that alone was enough to want to chat with you all, and we will talk about just the word mythopoetic here very shortly. Before that, I do want to say that this is a Sword and Key stream. You can find all of Sword and Key stuff at beacons.ai/Sword and Key. You can find all of our socials, all of our Discord stuff. You can also see all of our affiliate links. We have some discount codes there. Check them out if you're looking for dice minis, or even if you want to get something from Hit Point Press. You can also see all of our charitable organizations there as well. All that said, Dragon Reactor. I want to make sure I get this right, so I did have it pulled up. A mythopoetic mech tragedy game about conflict on a grand scale.
Mm.
I would say more, but that says a lot. Um, mythopoetic was a word I had not encountered since I think freshman year of high school, when I actually went over myth stuff. I really love the usage of it here. If elevator pitch, what is Dragon Reactor?
Dragon Reactor is first and foremost, it is a collaboration between Dynaberry Press and 200 Proof Games, aka Quinn. It is, you said it, it's a mythopoetic mech tragedy TTRPG. It is about forever wars and the effects they have on people. It is about piloting big robots and big robot fights. It is about tragedy. It is about grand conflict. And it is about, I think the way that I put it is wanting to do the right thing, but having to pull the trigger.
That line really got me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe in kind of a more direct way of saying, what's this game when you play it? I think a good way of thinking about it is that it's kind of like if you combined like a World War II novel, right? Like following
Yeah,
a
novel for
character
sure.
across various battles. If you combine that with like the Odyssey, right? So it's basically taking the language of war stories and the language or structuring of kind of like an epic adventurous poem, and it's combining them together so that what you end up with during play is a kind of episodic beat by beat. You're going through a war, and the things that happen in that war are going to be strange, and there's going to be weird things that happen in it kind of just by design. And so that's how you end up with something that we're comfortable describing as a mythopoetic war story, and so you kind of get all of these pieces of these different genres that you like. You get the wow cool robot, you get the poetic emphasis on language, you get the tragedy and suffering that comes with a good war story, and the senselessness of it all.
And if that doesn't paint a clear enough picture, the key inspirations for this game, first and foremost, Mobile Suit Gundam, specifically 0079 and Iron Blooded Orphans, Armored Core 6 through and through, Escaflowne, Evangelion, The Expanse, actual war poetry, and mechanically the game plays. There's a lot of bells and whistles going on. There's a lot of dials to turn and tools to use, but it is very push your luck. It is very intense. Every die roll has a very major effect based on what you're trying to do and how big of a thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It pulls elements from all over the game space, and we've like remixed them and melded them up into something tragic in a very, very fun way.
It's going to be very familiar to play in a lot of senses, but you're also going to be really struck by like, oh, I know this thing, but I haven't seen it like this. Oh, it's doing this thing here. Oh, this is kind of fun, and so I think it's really, if you have any experience with like Forged in the Dark games at all, I think you're going to be really, really comfortable playing it. But I also think that it's a pretty comfortable game for people without much experience with RPGs to fuck with.
One of our ongoing we're doing an ongoing playtest campaign, and one of the players has never played another TTRPG before.
Yeah, and she's doing great.
She's doing wonderful. She is loving it.
That's really
so that's
awesome.
what Dragon Reactor is.
Yeah, yes. that's awesome. I know that's definitely one of the barriers when people enter the TTRPG space is am I going to jump into D&D 5e like so many people have done before, because that's the obvious one, or is there going to be a more accessible thing that fits the interests that I actually have if I'm not looking, like, instead of restyling D&D to be a mech game as people have tried, let's try to find a mech game, and it sounds like this one actually like meets that entry level bar for people who've never played before, which is really great.
Approachability is a big deal for Quinn
absolutely.
and I.
Yeah, I would
crunch, but
yeah. And absolutely more power to them, but really, like, I think the key to getting people into games is to just find the thing they're already excited for, and to be like, well, when I'm talking to someone, because obviously I do a lot of proselytizing for the medium in my day to day. And when I'm talking to someone about games and they're like, oh, I've never played before, my question is always like, well, what kind of story have you always wanted to be a part of? Like, do you like sci-fi? Do you like crime? Do you like this, that, because as we are so fond of saying, there's a game for that, right? And so it's just like matching the player to the game. I think people are willing, as evidenced by how many people have gotten into D&D, right, as their first. There's a lot to be said for getting into a game purely because you love the setting or you love the genre. That's what gets people into stuff, is this other thing they like,
Absolutely. That's really cool, and I definitely want to talk about the mechanics, the accessibility. You put, I do want to mention there is a demo version of Dragon Reactor out right now. That you yourself, it is pay what you want. Can check out, that link is in our chat. It's also on all of our socials. So check out Dragon Reactor for yourself. Don't just take our words for it. But I want to talk about all the really cool stuff that you have fit in just to this demo. Knowing that there's so much more coming. Before that, though, I can obviously tell that both of you have experience with TTRPGs. What does that experience look like? I know we have 200 proof games, Dynaberry Press. What are some other things that people might know from you, or even your history with TTRPGs?
Sure.
I've been designing TTRPG since 2019. First project was first big project was Gun and Slinger. That's the one that like people know. But before that, I made a lot of really, really small and weird games that I have learned would be called lyric games. I kind of started with them. I made like postcard games and stuff. I made a hack of lasers and feelings called Skelitions, which is really good. Before that, I played a lot of stuff. I played D&D as my like first, like 3.5 was my first game. Very classic for a lot of people. I got into indie TTRPGs with the first Zine Quest, actually. Black Mass by Will Yobst is what like opened my eyes to what indie games could be, and has left a permanent mark on my brain and soul. Aside from TTRPG stuff, people might know me from a YouTube channel called Indie Bites, where I did short form, highly analytical, like discussion and analysis of indie games. And a lot of the approach that I had on that channel is like in the game design that I do now. very, very considered, thoughtful, like pulling of different mechanics and discussing what makes something work is right in the blood and meat of the stuff that I make now. And I think it shows. And it's Dinoberry Press and the stuff that we do there. Quinn?
Absolutely. Great logo, by the way. I really love the dinosaur skull and the strawberry.
Oh yeah, that's a Jam original. It's so good.
Great.
Jam's a killer.
Quinn, what about you?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Quinn. You can call me Quinn. I have been making RPGs since I think also around 2019. Actually, I think we got started sort of in the same around the same time. Let me really think. So, I remember that the first RPG games that I played semi-seriously were I ran 5e for some people in college. And I think I established some stuff about my style that I still maintain now. But I also remember playing a game of Pathfinder, like a few sessions of Pathfinder with a very, very strange dude who was like a Freemason. He had a ring and he was like, they will give you this if you're really high up. And I was like, okay, dude. And then he ran a truly dogshit boss battle that lasted like 3 hours. And I had school the next morning and I anyway, but
I'm
allergic
you
to
really
this
felt that one so hard that it made you cough.
I
Really
did.
good.
Yeah,
Really good.
I thought we were waiting to talk about PTSD with the game itself. It sounds like there might be some from just this boss battle alone.
No, I have no beef with Pathfinder. I have a lot of beef with this dude, but I do. He did tell me. He did kind of show me what, a term I dislike, but he did show me what homebrew could do, what it could really mean to make a system your own. And that's what started me thinking like, wait a minute, I can fuck with this. And that kind of stuck in the back of my head. And so then I started getting more into indie stuff and I started checking out Dungeon World, and in particular, the Dungeon World podcast, Spout Lore, which is the best actual play podcast that exists. You can @ me if you want, but go listen to it. And then I just got more and more into the whole thing until, then I was like, okay, it's time to get my hands dirty. And I started working on some stuff, just doing some things, but it wasn't until 2020, which, surprise, surprise, that I wanted to, I finally got my first big, this is the thing that I want to make a game about. And it was isolation horror, right? Because I'd been listening to another podcast called The White Vault from Fool and Scholar.
White Vault is so good.
Yeah,
it's just so good. And so, but I listened to that, and I was like, and I was in their Discord. I think I'm still in their Discord actually. And I was like, hey, if I made a game based on this, would people play it? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I have an audience. This means that my brain will allow me to put effort into this thing now. And so that was my first big project. There is currently a version of Travel Not Advised available on my itch. It's kind of like a one-shot version. I'm not very happy with it. I think it is still good to play, but I have a second edition in the works that's going to incorporate all of the stuff that I made for it and do a lot of improvements. But I think when I think about my practice as an RPG designer, I think a lot of it is portraiture in a way. I like to create portraits of art and portraits of genre and attempt to depict this thing that I love and make it accessible and give people the pieces to pick up and move around, right? And so you can see that in a lot of my work. 80%, which is a game of mine that I think a lot more people are familiar with than Travel Not Advised. 80% is my love letter to speedrunning, right? You use tarot cards to make a video game level, and you use other tarot cards to speedrun it. And that's me.
Pretty sick.
It's I think it's a really fun game. It's fun to play by yourself. It's fun to play with other people, but and then you kind of come to Dragon Reactor, which is again portraiture of the mech genre, portraiture of the war genre, and this kind of thing of because I like to understand things. That's like my hobby. My big hobby is understanding things. And so I make games to be like, hey, here's the stuff I've understood. And now I can give it to you. Now it's something useful, right? Now it's an individual piece. I've broken it down. Here's the pieces. Now you can do something with that. And I also wrote, it's on my website, 200proof.games, the 1E Manifesto, which is just kind of like an exhortation to anyone who has been writing a bunch of RPGs and not publishing very many of them, if any, to start doing that. And I wrote it because I have a zillion whips and I've only published like 3 things. So I think that's kind of maybe even more thorough than maybe I should have done.
No, I respect that energy. I respect
Yeah.
the million works in progress and
Yeah.
like just coming back to each one of them when it gives you that little boost of good brain chemicals and be like, I don't like it anymore, and just putting it in the back burner. I respect and identify with that.
I also have a zillion billion whips. We don't have
I think
to
it's the
talk
way to
about
do
them.
it.
There's
Yeah.
so many.
Yeah.
I don't know any other
It's
way,
fun.
so I think it's great. Yeah. It's fun, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and then you wait too long to go back to it, and then you go back to it and you're like, I have no idea what I was doing, and I don't even know if I can keep working.
And then you
on
made
this.
a new Google Doc and you copy everything over and you just start over.
And then,
I've
you have to
rewritten
start over
Splatter
because
Dive like 4 times.
everything that person wrote in there, and that was a different person. Like that
ain't me. I don't know her.
Yeah, they wrote terribly. Like I don't even talk like that anymore. Like who would even write that way?
Yeah,
that's great. I really love also the energy, Quinn, of kind of coming to homebrew a little bit maybe out of spite, just like, oh, if this jabroni can do it, maybe like it can't be that hard.
Absolutely,
and then really absolutely killing it. Yeah. Also, just you said something that made me I have a question. The White Vault game that you made, what year would you say that you made that?
I made that it started in October of 2020, and I believe that the current version came out in November, December of 21. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned isolationist horror, and absolutely during that era, that would make a lot of sense. I think a lot of people were probably drawn to that in a big way. Yeah.
Definitely.
Weirdly, there was something going on.
Yeah.
That's great. So absolutely, I think your backgrounds really shine in what I've read through with and not only, I mean, Dragon Reactor, but a lot of your games. As we mentioned a little bit off camera, we are familiar with other games from Dynaberry Press, and having looked through, Quinn, your stuff with 200 Proof Games, just absolutely phenomenal work.
Thank you.
Dragon Reactor has a lot of really, really cool aspects about it, and I also love that so much of it is, I mean, it definitely feels like a very heavy game in the sense that you were kind of describing it as having this Odyssey meets like tragic contemporary or even futuristic warrior sort of vibe. You know, this you know, even when you say the Odyssey, like Odysseus, yes, he was a soldier, he was a general, but even more than that, he was a father. He was this person who was like pressed into the war itself, and then for the entirety of that story is just trying to get home. He doesn't want to be a soldier anymore, and I think that vibe really comes through, especially with, again, the line that Nova, you mentioned, the wanting to do the right thing but having to pull the trigger, is so deeply indicative of what I've kind of picked up from this game. So we're talking mechs, as you mentioned, Gundam, Neon Evangelion, all the Gundams that are the really heavy ones, not the ones with like Cobra mechs that all fight in space against like different nations, which was my favorite as a kid. I loved Zoids, which was like not this at all. At least, yeah.
You can definitely have some Zoids in here. There's definitely
there's room.
And I think you could do G Gundam with this too, honestly. There's
for
room.
sure. But it seems like, you know, with the themes that you have in here of war and like the never-ending war, especially, let's talk a little bit about how the game is actually played. So we get a lot of solo games on here, we get a lot of multiple person TTRPGs on here as well. What is Dragon Reactor? How many people does it take to play?
Dragon Reactor can be played with as few as 2. If you're willing to do a little bit of legwork, you can have just a GM or just a poet and a pilot. But it really shines when you have at least 3 pilots, just because there's a lot of stuff at play with like relationships between the characters from the jump, it's about building those relationships and connections that we come into a session with between our characters, because then it's going to hurt more when one of them dies. And you also, genuinely, it kind of just feels better mechanically because you have more resources to pull on as you play through a conflict, which is the main mode of play here. So after you've made your world, made your characters, you are ready to play proper, and you start off with like a conflict, which is the main meat and potatoes of the game. It's a fight, a battle, a mission, something. It is a conflict of some sort where you're going to be in your big robots and you're going to be trying to win. Every conflict is a race between the sides of the conflict. So whichever side gets to 10 successful marks on their conflict track first wins, full stop, the end. Once a conflict is done, you move on to aftermath, which is a immediate post-conflict phase where you kind of wind down, debrief, and talk about what just happened and what it means for the world as it continues. Once you're done with aftermath, you go to countdown, which is it's a downtime phase with a twist in that you do not always get the same amount of actions in every downtime phase that you do. This is again a push your luck game, and that goes into the downtime too, because I think as Quinn wrote in the intro to countdown, this is war's time and you're just borrowing it. You make an action, roll a pool of dice, and that pool of dice gets reduced depending on how many ones and twos you roll. Once you run out of dice, that's it. Countdown's over and the next battle begins. The game is about playing in that cycle, going from mission to mission, conflict to conflict, as you try and figure out whatever a good ending looks like for you. And you might not have one. There is a doom clock, which doesn't exist in the demo, but is a very, very key component to the main game. Anytime something really, really bad happens, the doom clock ticks up by 1. And when it fills up, the worst possible thing that you and your fellow players could come up with comes true. It happens.
Okay.
And that marks like the end of a season.
That's incredible and incredibly heavy. I don't think I mentioned this before. This is like, a chill tea sipping kind of stream. So I do love the balance of the two here. Okay, so do we know this? Dice. We're talking D6s. How many
D6s?
D6s. When we talk about a pool, how many D6s maximum do you think folks should have on hand to play this?
There's a number, isn't there? It's like 8.
No, we don't really have a number. That depends on how intensely you ascribe to the theory that you should drive a character like you stole it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. I think let's hang on. I'm gonna do math. All right.
You're fine.
So
You're fine. We're gonna
build the dice pool
at Sorting Keys. So do whatever you need to do.
Let's see.
Yeah, let me.
We're gonna build the dice pool real quick.
I've got dice here.
You get 1 for being a pilot. Let's say you have a really, really good stat maxed out at 3.
Right, so that's
then
4 dice.
you take some damage to gain another die, and you use a module to gain 1 more. So like 6.
You have a module.
6
yeah,
dice?
we're at 6. And then theoretically, let's say that all of your teammates in the battle, let's say it's a 4-person game, and all of them have given you an extra die. So
like 10 dice.
10 dice, it would be really hard. It would be really hard to get.
You would have to pull out all of the stops and really mark off some resources on your character sheet and get really, really lucky to get up to 9 or 10 dice. I don't think that you need that many dice for this game.
It might be worse
like
for you.
6. Yeah, I was gonna say you talked about taking damage, so it sounds like even to get to that point, but there's so much cost, there's so much loss that's being accrued. Yeah, maybe that's the last roll you're gonna have. I really like the idea of a doomsday clock, especially that ticking down, and everything again lends into that word tragedy being put into this TTRPG, which I think is very foundational to it. Mm-hmm. You mentioned pilots. I always love when a TTRPG assigns roles to the player, and especially roles to the GM or the game runner that isn't just GM. So I definitely want to shout out pilots are the PCs. responsible for controlling the personal character, narrating their actions. They try to shape the world. And then I really love this. The game master, game runner, is called the poet, and I think that's really cool. Responsible for controlling the world at large, not and NPCs. I think that's really great.
You guys watching the stream can't see this, but our producer,
Yes.
he said poet, and she went.
Eva has a very reactive face, and it is
It's
the greatest
very
crime
good.
that she
That
doesn't
was
turn
awesome.
her camera off so that everyone else can see
Yeah,
it.
not
react
to
it.
not to
Very
peel back the
happy.
curtain there, but that was very
Yeah.
good positive reinforcement. Thanks.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
the excitement is genuine.
When we talk about like what you're talking about here, like the use of language is like very, very key to the entirety of Dragon Reactor. When we talk about mythopoetic, we mean language and we mean vibes, and those two things reinforce each other. The poet used to be called the handler, and they were like, this is not good enough. This is so normal and like regular mech story. Let's make this,
Which is fine. Oh, I deleted Nova.
I was gonna say you
I
called it Nova.
deleted Nova. Hold
That's
on.
right.
Sometimes Nova's computer just plain crashes. Hopefully that's not what just happened.
It's okay if it is. Tech issues are
Yeah.
unfortunately part of it, but we'll give Nova just a second here, but we might go to a little early break just to give them a moment. Yes, let's go ahead and go to an early break.
Good plan.
We'll be back in just a little bit. Please enjoy our ad reel. Please check out all the
Yes.
stuff from Dinoberry and check out their demo.
Yeah.
And we'll be back to chat
Yeah.
more here. in
Truly.
just a
Thanks
bit.
for hanging out so far, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sword and Tea, our chill chat show, cozy chat show about TTRPGs, their designers, their creators, artists. And again, we are joined by the two very lovely folks from Dinoberry Press and 200 Proof Games. Thank you again to Quinn and Nova for joining us. And we're talking about Dragon Reactor, a mythopoetic game of mechs and tragedy and endless war and catastrophe. And it's really great. And again, cozy is the key word of this stream,
So cozy.
despite all of that. So cozy.
Yeah.
We hope you have a cup of your favorite beverage, hot or cold. I'm doing a Lotus from our local coffee stand because that's one of the cool things about the Pacific Northwest is how many just coffee stands they have. Okay, so we were talking about how language is really important in this game and how that goes into the descriptions of the name for the game runner being the poet, the players themselves being referred to as pilots, and much to what you were saying, I think that it really does feel like the game runner is this futuristic mech Homer that is telling the tale of these tragic heroes. And
that's exactly where the name came from. Is
Yeah,
that
it's
I was
great.
like, I was like, what do we call this? What I was like, what do you call Homer? What's the technical title for the dude who writes epic poems? And I was like, oh right, it's a poet.
He's a poet. Yeah,
He is a poet.
It's better than calling them Homers. I feel like a lot of people would lend towards a yellow terrible father, but I really do like the idea of
Donut
this
Reactor.
donut reactor. That'd be really, yeah. Actually, that's really good. And here you have your spin-off game, which is just idly trying to keep a nuclear plant from breaking down in small town America.
Oh man.
Oh.
This is great. That is a tangent I'm not going to follow. I'm gonna keep my brain somewhat on track here.
You should write that. You should design that one.
Yeah.
A Simpsons game. Yeah. That's never been done before. That wasn't a major part of my childhood. So when it comes to the game itself, we've talked about how we were talking a little bit about the demo, but how there's an aspect beyond the demo of the doomsday clock, and how every step that the metaphorical step that the players take forward, that the pilots move forward, has a cost. Everything is moving towards this inevitable doom, that the war will not end necessarily by their actions. If anything, they are going to have this infinitesimally small part, or maybe it's going to mean so much to them or to one person. where does mech play into all this? Because I can see this kind of game being played in a variety of settings. I mean, this could be very, very much to the point. It could be in the ancient world. It could be medieval. It could be contemporary. Why do we lean more towards mech for this?
Primarily because we really wanted to make a mech game. Quinn and I, for a long time, both of us really wanted to make a mech game. And we found that the contrast between that like mythopoetic style and big future robots was really enticing. There's also a really great way that Quinn kind of describes some of this stuff where they describe the Gundam as a nuclear weapon. It is a thing that can single-handedly end a conflict and do a whole lot of damage in the process.
It is a WMD, absolutely.
Yeah, that is absolutely. And we put it in the hands of a kid, and that's totally fine. We don't have to think about it. Additionally, you know, when you kind of spin off of that thought and you think about myth, dragons work much the same way. They are these big, terrifying things. And we knew from the start that we were going to call our mechs dragons, and everything kind of just flowed from there really smoothly. It's a fun contrast that we really enjoy, and it lets us play in some fun ways with the writing and the fantasy. And it really has been like the driving force of the direction that we're going in the game.
Yeah.
In a really fun way.
Fully. Yeah. And I also think like why is it mechs when other things would work? I think that is a good question, and frankly, the game itself makes allowances for this. It calls them mechs, but like the first thing you do when you play this game is you make your own setting, right? So in no way do your dragons have to be mechs. They could be goddamned anything as long as you ride them and they're very dangerous.
We've had players make things ranging from like exosuits to one player's pilot was the core at a center of a swarm of bees, and the dragon was the entirety of the swarm of bees.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Robotic bees, also, but you know.
Yeah.
Sure. So kind of like a nanobot sort of thing. That's really cool.
We've also had like carved statues. We've had things straight out of Megas XLR in some.
Yeah, full on. I mean, yeah, you could do. Honestly, I really want to play a game of Dragon Reactor where we're just going straight high fantasy. I want to try it out where you're just doing Dragon Riders of Pern. Like, I think there's something to that. You'd have to make it so that the dragons you're riding are really good dragons. That's important. But still, you know, but also it's just like they are mechs because partially
that's the kind of story we wanted to tell.
Yeah, you know, I like because I found other mech games weren't scratching the particular itch I wanted scratched. So this was just my way of doing that. And and if we made it not mechs, then well, it wouldn't do that. So
that's kind of it. Yeah. we really wanted to make a mech game.
Yeah, and in so doing, ended up telling a much more interesting story than just this is a game about giant robots or giant mechs.
I mean, you know, if you like, but like I really what we hope for Dragon Reactor is simply that it, you know, if I were to be as ambitious as possible, I just want it to be part of that constellation of the great mech games that each give you a different vision and a different way to interact with the mech genre. Lancer, Beam Saber, Armorister, these are all great games that have a lot to say, and I think Dragon Reactor can just be part of that conversation.
Absolutely.
That's exactly everything here is a part of.
Yes.
Quinn and I design things to be in conversation with other things and itself, and Dragon Reactor is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what makes this game so interesting. Is yes, it is part of the conversation, and yet has its own standout aspects that does set it apart from
Yeah.
all of those other mech games. And I mean, we've had other mech games on Sword and Tea before, and that's, I think, the really cool thing about them is each of those also stand alone, just as yours
Yes.
does, and even those have been, tragic. We've had a tragic mech game or two, but this one, even by its very virtue, tells a different story than what those would tell. I also really want to shout out the calling them dragons. I think is something that's really cool. I would not have thought of that, but it absolutely makes sense when you think about these mechs being these weapons of mass destruction, and then you think about dragons being the best, again, mythic contemporary of that. Is, I've always, one of my personal little ways I'd like to think of dragons, because I work in psychology, is I think a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how like a dragon's food pyramid is essentially just Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the exact same pyramid because they consume all the things that people, all of your basic needs, all the things that you need
That's
to
so
basically.
funny. Oh
Ah,
my
that's
god.
great. That's
Yeah, if you think the traditional
Wow.
dragon is, it's gonna eat your food, it's gonna destroy your house, it's gonna take your family, and it's gonna make you really, really sad. It's gonna take away everything that you need essentially to feel like safe and whole of a community.
And
So
you know,
that's it.
coincidentally, when I eat an entire food pyramid, I also feel much like a dragon.
that's
Yeah.
very fair. Yeah.
Right, right.
And
So
it's
like
sit upon your
it just
bed of
works.
gold coins. Yeah, absolutely. That's a Tuesday. I did want to address this question. We have our one of
Yeah.
our lovely game runners, Anik, in chat. Anik is not a native English speaker. How, when we're talking about language for this game, how accessible would it? I mean, I don't know if either of you are non-native English speakers, but for you to extrapolate out, how accessible do you think this would be to somebody who is not a native English speaker?
So
I believe. Oh, by all means.
I want to take this one
Yeah.
because I saw this one come through, and I do have some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So first, I want to say that it would be awesome if we can eventually get Dragon Reactor translated, because that's just always awesome, and it makes it easily more accessible to other people. Dragon Reactor is probably just as accessible as your average English TTRPG is. We are not using, in the writing of the game, we're not using weird words. When we say that language is a critical part of the game, what we really mean is like the way that we wrote it. We were very particular about the words that we use and the meaning that they ascribe to the game itself. We use dragons, we use poet, we use the word anchor for your connections, we use the word doom for the end of the world. We're very, very particular about the words that we use in the design of the game, and that is kind of where that comes from. The game itself cares about the words that are used, what they mean, and not just like dictionary definitions, but like cultural implications around a word. Again, we use dragons here.
Yeah.
There is one aspect of the game called refrains, where it's a short phrase that a pilot can be given that is essentially a word of power. They can use this refrain to shape the world in a way kind of thematic with that refrain. And that might be something that could give non-native English speakers a little bit of friction with it. But the great thing about this game is that it is fully collaborative, and you can work together to come up with what those refrains are and what they mean. So
Yeah.
approachability or accessibility to English as a second language, probably average, but it's not because it's an overly complex game with super weird words or anything like that.
Yeah. Language is important, not the English language.
Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah.
There's nothing that says you have to do the refrains in English either.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like using the refrains that are included with the archetypes, you would, it asks you to think and feel poetically. So I could definitely see that tripping someone up. But they're also, I think the actual sentences themselves are very simple, and so then, there really should be no issue.
Great. I really appreciate the answer on that.
Yeah, and a great question.
I
Yeah,
also
very
know
good question.
that I think people get a misconception about TTRPG creators and when a term like press is applied to a company, I think people tend to think of this like very outdated bullpen, all these people rushing around like, oh, I need this on my desk by Tuesday sort of thing. And I think there was something that I recently, I think like literally yesterday, saw on some social media that there's probably more people that work at your local grocery store than work at your favorite TTRPG maker, whether that be like Wizards of the Coast with Dungeons and Dragons, or even something, like Green Ronin Press or Monty Cook or Hit Point Press. Like there's even, I think they were talking about Itch, because there's all this discourse going
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
with
Itch
Itch
has
right now.
something like 10 employees.
Yeah, they have
Right.
like one guy that's doing like 90% of the work. So
Hmm.
I think when it comes down to people going, well, when are we going to see a multilingual version of this game? I think that's maybe something that isn't always super accessible
I
to
can.
I
folks.
actually want to.
Yeah,
Please, yeah.
I do just happen to know just enough about this, which is just that like
Yeah.
whether a game gets translated is pretty much never up to the people who make the game.
Mhm.
The way translations normally happen is localization teams from other countries reach out to you and they're like, hey, we want to localize this. Let's work together, right? Like,
Yep.
so if you want to see a game in your language, I mean, I don't know. I guess you find a localization team. I don't even know how you would go about
It's
doing that.
Yeah.
you would find a company that produces and publishes games in your local language. They're difficult to find because not every language has them.
Yeah.
Jam and I have spent some time trying to reach out to localizers and building relationships, but the way that it works really is like they reach out to you if they're interested in your project. So it relies on them knowing about you first and foremost, having the bandwidth to actually do something with you, having the money to do it,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and
And it has to be a
building that
profitable
relationship.
venture for them. You
Exactly.
know.
It has to be profitable for them, profitable for the creators.
Yeah.
Um, and, peeling back the curtain a little bit more, when they reach out to you, they offer to give you royalties for this sort of
Mhm.
thing. You get like an upfront payment, you get royalty percentages as they continue to do it, which is great for the creator. If the creator reaches out to a localizer, since we're the ones initiating that, we have to be the ones to pay them, and that's very expensive
Yeah,
and
I bet.
quite simply not attainable for people at our scale.
Yeah.
Dino Berry Press is me and Jam, and then for this project we've got Quinn on here, and
Yeah.
I think it's a team of like 6 people including the 3 of us working
Yeah,
on this
and
project.
keep in mind, Dino Berry, as far as like indie teams go, indie setups, Dino Berry is kind of like mid-size.
Mhm.
I
Two
wouldn't
people
even
is
say
mid.
we're mid. I wouldn't even say we're mid-sized, bud. I would say we're small fries.
Yeah, I guess it. But yeah, but I mean, but that's the thing is that like all of these game designers that put out a bunch of games and you're like, wow, these people are so cool. They're so active in the space. They make so many games. Everyone knows about them. Everyone loves them. We're small fry. Like these
I do
setups are
just want to
just
say
not
this
big.
is not like digging against the ask, by the way,
No,
of
no,
when
of course not.
that
For sure.
was an implied ask
Yeah,
that I was just bringing up,
yeah,
just about that in general, because
yeah.
we do get asked that a lot. Dinoberry gets asked that a lot in our comments and in our email and everything. So figured I'd mention it.
Yeah,
And
I
rest
because I
assured, obviously, we want our games to be in as many languages as possible. It just
for sure.
literally, it has nothing to do with us, frankly.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing again, that people get that misconception, and they think like, oh, this team of people, why aren't they doing more? It's not realizing that these people are up till like the wee hours of the morning most days, already have 9 to 5s probably on top of all of that, and then are still putting out like a lot of content that if you were to break it down into like hourly wages wouldn't even come close to minimum wage for the sheer amount of hours that gets put into something. And then on top of all that, like, oh, then put this out in a language that you don't speak. So yeah, I just to again, like you were saying, pull back the curtain for expectations, and again talk about we're already a niche interest. TTRPGs are already a niche interest. I would say that even though there's a Dungeons and Dragons movie, I don't think that Dungeons and Dragons still is fully mainstream. And even though there is increased interest, that doesn't always necessarily trickle down to other TTRPGs. And when you get all of these companies, all of these presses that are all making really great quality games, you end up kind of having to flow to find the thing that you really have interest in. And again, I think that's a really beautiful thing about this game is it does stand out in this otherwise sea of not only TTRPGs, but indie TTRPGs about mechs. And then you have this game, which does a really cool job of saying, we're going to tell this very specific type of story that still has maneuverability and an adjustability to play a variety of different types of games. But if you want to play this story, we give you structure for that, and then there's the framework to build whatever you want else on top of it. So I think that's really cool. To that point, there is in the demo a setting. The world wrought by war is the section I'm kind of referring to here, and the planet of Caliban. This is a really cool description of this. It definitely gives, again, a lot of those influences you mentioned at the top of our stream. A lot of those I can kind of see flowing into it. Who is there any singular person, or like where did this kind of pull together from?
Oh, I'd love to talk about this. So our developmental editor, it came from our playtest with our editor Sam Lee of Goblin Mixtape.
Blinking Birch.
So many people use Goblin stuff. I was trying to make sure it was the right Goblin.
We are out here just being Goblin.
Just being goblins. Yeah, no. So we played a game with Sam just so that they could get a good sense of everything as they were doing the developmental editing and helping us with making sure our phrasing and everything was dialed in. And so Caliban is a setting that we made using the setting creation procedures. And I just think it's such a good example of the kind of thing that you can get out of it. It was so much fun to make. It was a lot of fun to play.
We really, really, really wanted to, because that's the thing about like making a demo. You have to figure out what you are and aren't putting in. And that is a difficult conversation as designers, because we can't just give away the whole fucking game for free.
Right.
But this is a lot. You should check out the demo. There's a link somewhere, I'm sure. It is most of the game, to be completely honest with you. The stuff that's not in there, really, really important to a bigger,
super
juicier game. But we really wanted to make sure we had a setting that was like unique and fascinating, and not just you're doing Gundam. And we also really, really knew that we wanted to use Caliban again at some point. So it was a natural fit to be like, we're not going to put the world creation stuff in the demo because we want people to really experience that in the full game. But we have a really fucking cool setting that we want people to see. So let's use Caliban. And one of the missions in there also, like one of the conflicts that is given is the conflict that we did in the playtest. And the other two, Quinn and I just kind of spitballed over the course of like an hour, and we got it together. So you can make that in the game. You can also make cooler stuff.
Yeah, there's really something about the way that like the world creational comes together. So I think one of the smartest things that we did in world creation was the faction formation, and specifically,
it's so sick.
It's so much fun. So you make your world in a general sense, and then you make 3 factions.
3 of them.
And it is only after having made all of them that you decide which faction your pilots are actually a part of. And so you end up with, very often now, you end up with a faction that's not fully the good guys, and there are no factions that are fully the good guys. And the other great thing is that when there's three factions, it creates situations where often one of them is kind of the underdog, and then that triangle keeps shifting. And so when it comes time to come up with the next conflict, hey, where does the war go from here? it's very, very easy to be like, oh, these guys see an opening. Oh, these guys have this thing that they want. Oh, these guys are on the back foot, right? And so there's not a lot of head scratching. It's usually pretty straightforward to be like, oh, I know what the next big thing we're doing is. And just, yeah.
Spinning off of that, like some more details about the faction stuff, because I do see people asking some questions about it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
do like make
I need to
factions
get on
in
this
this game. You make your world with some pretty simple world building questions that can extrapolate into really, really juicy stuff. See Caliban in the demo. The factions are made, they're essentially randomly generated. When you first create a faction, you roll dice to get 2 questions about that faction from a table, and you answer those. Then every time that faction is involved in a conflict, this includes the pilot's faction, you roll and answer 1 additional question from that table. Sometimes you get the same question and you can dig deeper into it. Other times you get more. And these questions kind of hide a truth and presentation dynamic. Like, 2 of the questions are, what do they say they're fighting for, and what are they fighting for?
Sure.
I love that one.
With
I love it
Caliban
when you roll
specifically,
both of those.
it's
to
really
start
good.
with.
With Caliban specifically, I want to point out that, like, in the actual playtest version of the game, the 3 factions were all bad dudes. The rebel faction that is in the demo showed up at the end of the playtest session, because there is one of the questions during Aftermath is, has this conflict sparked the interest of another faction? And if the answer is yes, you create that faction at the end of that conflict. So that's when we started getting the rebels.
Yeah.
So it starts off with 3 and it builds up. And by slowly building up in that way, you avoid that bloat that something like Blades has, where it's, here's 20 factions that each have their own interconnected relationships. Have fun. We really, really didn't want something like that. You also don't have a relationship meter with these factions. Your relationship is defined by how you approach the story and what you do.
So it kind of sounds like there's the possibility to switch factions, maybe even be secret agent for another faction. And I was going to ask about the you kept saying 3 factions, but I'm looking at the 4, and I appreciate you addressing that. I think they've got some really cool names too. So Tooth Crown, Oiled Heart, and Maintenance Men would be the original 3, and then Whispered Resistance being something that's actually mentioned in the language of. It's among the peasantry, there are whispers of rising rebellion, hints of a chance of freedom from the wrought iron heel of the crowns. That's really cool. Again, language in this, very, very cool. There was a question in chat. Are there tools to help figure out missions the factions are doing, or something along those lines, or does this question answering thing cover that? So are there, is there structure to the missions of factions?
The way that it kind of works is, at the end of Countdown, before ending a session, you talk about what the next mission is going to be. And you are supposed to pick something that follows on from what just happened. Genuinely, we don't care what the factions are doing if they're not on screen. I mean, that's putting it lightly, but you don't have to be thinking like, oh, while we're over here doing this other faction is moving these motives forward. We don't care. You can definitely think about that, and you can have that considered in your storytelling, but the game itself doesn't care. The game itself wants you to be concerned with your core faction, your pilots, and the very next thing that they are going to do. Often, it is a reaction to an attack that just happened. Often, it is, well, they just attacked us, so we're going to counterattack, or we just attacked them, so they're going to attack us back. It's very much like, follow the story, follow the focal point, and make sure that your characters are at the center of it.
Yeah, because like I think there's probably an argument to be made that more familiarity with war stories, or even war itself, hey, maybe you'd come up with like more varied conflicts, but the important thing about the conflict really is just that it is your faction and their faction, and each of you want something, right? So like, we don't have specific questions or a specific procedure for generating a new conflict.
Well, we kind
But
of
that's
do.
not. I mean, kind of. I just
We
don't
do.
think like.
You. Sorry, Quinn. I'm counteracting you
Well,
here. A conflict is made up of your goal and then what
Yeah.
happens if you win and what happens if you lose. That's a
Sure.
conflict.
Yes. Yeah. But I think just what I mean is that vis-a-vis the question, there's not like a spark table of defend
Oh,
objective
okay.
or do
Yeah.
an escort mission. We don't have
Mhm.
anything like that. But I guess I'll just say so far in a lot of playtests that we've been doing, that just hasn't been a friction point, right? And so I
We
think
actually
if
do
that
a lot of the. We actually
yeah,
do a lot of the same kind of missions.
yes, but it doesn't
very
even
very
matter.
often very often we are attacking something or defending something,
Yeah, that's usually the
but
deal.
it's the circumstances around that are what
Who are
make
you
it most
fighting
interesting.
against? What's the
Where are you
I think
fighting them?
a big where are you fighting? Where are you fighting has a big impact on what the conflict ends up meaning in the story. Um yeah,
Yeah, when you
yeah,
think about like actual war, there is a level of monotony to it. Like
hugely.
there's the
Oh yeah,
war never
dude.
changes. You are attacking or you are defending or you are escorting. Like there's not a lot of new inventions to the broad concepts of war. We keep finding more interesting ways to kill each other, but structurally,
It's just the killing. Yeah,
yeah, it's
So
it's we might not be lining up in a barrage of artillery anymore, but at the same time we kind of are. If you look at like large artillery, like the structure of warfare, it just adapts by weapons. The way that people fight ultimately really doesn't change that much, and even when you do have giant mechs, because depending on how you style your mech, it's just a really big person and it's going to fight like a person
yeah.
would. So I think that's interesting to have kind of that monotony part of it as well kind of tied in. um
I think that's
there
also.
was
I think you also
Yeah.
named it very correctly when you said that, like, the shape of warfare is defined by its weapons, and this game tells you exactly. It defines the weapons, and so because you know what people are fighting with, and you know what people are fighting for, you know what they want, then that just answers all the questions about what happens next. All of those questions are downstream of things that you establish yourself.
Sure.
Um, so I would say that's kind of how it works in play.
Well, I think this also lends a little bit to, this is a game with a GM. It does have the poet. So whereas you could be given hey, this is the mission structure, defend this place, escort this individual, or attack this thing, you with your factions, with the tragic part of it, you also there's the agency of the player to say, I'm either going to be a good soldier and follow orders, or I am going to defect or do my own way of doing this in a certain way. And that lends to the point, like, yes, you can structure a mission, but that mission will change based off of choices. So yeah, it's not a video game. I think that's a really cool part of it too, is you could say,
It's pretty
yes,
cool that it's not a video game, actually.
yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about
Yeah.
TTRPGs is, as much as I love Baldur's Gate 3, I also love being able to make the choices that aren't in a word tree, the stuff that they didn't necessarily think
Yeah.
of. So yeah, it's okay, we're going to attack this city. Oh, we found the city is non-hostile. That's still the order. Are we going to follow through with it or not? And I think that lends into the tragedy of it as well.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, the reactionary part of it is such a big part of war. We got attacked, so we're going to attack. Now they're going to attack. Now we're going to attack.
Yeah, who's
And
on the back foot, right? It's very much a
yeah,
push and pull situation. And of course, that's again where the multiple faction thing also starts to be fun, is you're like, "Oh, we did rebuff them, but now our resources are depleted, so here comes faction 3." Right?
right.
Because they see that we're weak. And oh, but maybe we're kind of friends with faction 4, maybe they'll help us out, right? So
Literally,
it's
that's how our playtest campaign has gone. The first session
yeah.
was just a straight up counter. We were trying to like defend our home from the big bad guys.
Mhm.
And then after that, this third faction was like, oh, pilot faction, this is an opportunity for us to go attack the pilot faction and get on the good side of the big bad guys. We defeated them. And then they were like, oh, well, let's be friends, actually. You can help us. You're strong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to keep coming back to this because both my partner and I are big fans of the Odyssey itself, and with it being referenced back to, tragic myth or just epic myth. Odysseus is I think, very reactionary throughout the Odyssey as well. He has the ultimate
Mhm.
goal, much like you mentioned in this game. This is the thing we're trying to achieve. He's trying to get home. And then every island or peril he comes across, he isn't acting, he's never really proactive. He goes to an island, meets a Cyclops, pisses off the Cyclops, and ends up, then Poseidon is reactionary. And then he ends up at another island and pisses off people there. And everything is just reactionary to the needs that he has at the current moment, balanced against his overall needs, and then the failings of the people that he surrounds himself with. So he never
Somebody
really
should
gets.
really show Odysseus the hierarchy
Yeah, yeah, he
and give
because
him a
he,
therapist.
I think he could really use one
I
at the
think
end of
Odysseus
everything.
would love therapy.
I think the ancient world would really have benefited from psychotherapy, personally. But again, I work in mental health, so maybe I'm a little biased. I just think the whole Trojan War could have been completely side skirted by a marriage counselor. I
Yeah.
but I really think that he's never really on, like you were saying, he's always on the back foot. He is always the smartest man, the most cunning, most guileful guy, is always trying to keep up, as like he is being thrown one hurdle after another, and he's still dealing with the last one. So I always really appreciate that, and it sounds like that kind of translates into this game as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
there's kind of a scrambling feeling as you
mhm,
go from conflict to conflict, especially when your countdown pool runs out, and because specifically what happens when the countdown pool runs out is you've been caught out. You're flat-footed. You were just sleeping, and now the alarm is going off. You probably
Mhm.
haven't fully recovered. Who knows what the state of your resources are in? You're getting hit right where it hurts. And so
It's
uh,
really
yeah,
funny. No matter how many resources your particular faction has, you always kind of feel like a scrappy underdog.
mhm.
yeah,
That's great, and I think that goes
yeah,
into a faction might have a lot of resources, don't always trickle down to the soldiers. You
yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
Well, and it's also just like you have dragons. You are the resources.
yeah,
That is
Like
yeah,
also kind of it. Yeah.
yeah,
you are in and of yourselves the meaningful military might of your faction. And so they'll do their best to resupply you, but the fact is that this is fucking war.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and you get what you get, man.
I haven't played Call of Duty for a long, long time, but I remember one of the modern warfares used to give like quotes from military leaders or just
So
like general
stupid.
quotes. Yeah, it was really dumb. But there was one that was, never forget that the weapons that you have, or like the gear that you have, was made by the lowest bidder. And I think that that's always something to remember is,
Sure.
your government might be the wealthiest government in the world, but
Yeah.
they're going to pay the least amount of money to ensure your survival.
It's pretty funny.
Sure.
Damn.
You know,
Ow.
Yeah,
assuming that your faction even produced the dragons,
is
because
that,
that's
yeah.
another thing you establish in setting creation is what do you know about the origin of the dragon? It's not even what's true, just what are the rumors. But a lot of times, just because it's fun, and a lot of the playtests that we've played, people go for the dragons are alien, or the dragons
Mhm.
come from so far back in time nobody knows where they're from or why they fit human bodies so
Yeah, you
well.
dug them out of the
you
desert
know
sands or something.
right.
Yeah,
And so it's like you could be the best equipped military in the freaking galaxy, but you're working with tech that's so advanced and weird that
hmm,
it's not just a matter of like swapping in an actuator.
yeah. That's
Mhm.
that's a really cool take on it as well. So when it comes to, we've talked about actual play of the game. When it comes to characters, I've noticed that there's different, um, I guess, different names given to the dragons and different skills that each of them seem to have. So I'm seeing stuff like Wyvern, Salamander, Drake, Worm. Are these different types of mechs that people will have, that different pilots would
Yes.
have? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly it. They are the silhouettes. Other games will call them frames or
Mm-hmm.
makes or something like that. These are the types of dragons. And you're not literally piloting a worm, unless you are, which is sick. But those are the kind of, again, language. Those
Hmm.
are the aesthetics, those mythic kind of pulls that we are making for these frames.
Yep.
And then they have the focuses, which I'm translating to skills. Those are essentially
They're
things that
stats.
So
Yeah,
fang,
stats
wing,
just-
breath, lattice. What do those kind of translate to?
Fang,
So Fang,
is
it's actually kind of funny because this game used to have 8, maybe
Used to
even
have
more. Yeah, it
it
used to have
had
8.
8, and we were like, this is too
Yeah.
many.
It was
I
so
said
too-
it was too many.
Nova said it was too many.
Really narrowed it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
We cut it down to 4, and we really like defined them. But it's funny because we're actually thinking about changing it a little bit.
Okay.
Just because
But-
lattice is a weird word.
And lattice is a weird
Basically.
word, and we've
But it
run
kinda
into
works,
some
so,
difficulties with like when are we using fang versus when are we using breath.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we've got some stuff. We're supposed to do a dev meeting. It hasn't happened because we've been so busy.
It hasn't happened. And I've got Gen Con next week, so it's not happening next week
It's
either.
not happening next weekend. But fang, as it stands, is suit to suit combat. Breath
Okay.
is widespread destruction, typically against structures or non-piloted things.
Okay.
Oh my god. Wing
I have
is
them
like,
written down. You don't have to remember
It's
them.
okay.
It's okay.
No, I'm the designer, Derek.
You are. I believe in you. You've
Wing
designed a
is-
lot.
Wing is your speed, maneuverability, how fast can you get where you need to be, and lattice is support, hacking, and general greebeliness.
Okay. If you don't want to use lattice, if I could suggest I'm in, I think that's a great hacking reference. Yeah.
Well, the trick with lattice really, with that stat, is that like, what's a noun that can equally imply stealth, defense, and electronic warfare at the same time? Like
Yeah.
those are
And also
kind
support.
of- and also support, right? So it's just sort of like, lattice. Ideally, what it pictures in your head is like a grid or like a hex grid,
For
right?
sure.
Hopefully, that's the
I
image it
pull
has
on,
because
like-
that's the yeah.
It makes me think about like a dragonfly's wings.
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah,
if
I like
it
that.
creates that image, then I think that's about as close as we can get. But I don't know, So basically, like in the full game, don't be surprised if you see stuff change. Don't be surprised if you don't. Like, there's not that much changes left to do, but there's, like we said, this game is about like language is really important. We just want to make sure that everything is precisely dialed in.
And absolutely, to the point of referencing back to dragons, I'm realizing now I'm in has a completely different context when it comes to actual dragons. Please don't use
Yeah,
that.
we don't want to use that one.
That's fair.
That's more power to you. We're not doing
There's other genres for that.
That's a different kind of dragon reactor.
It absolutely is. Don't want to melt down there. So I really do like Fang for melee. I really do like breath because I think absolutely the way you structure it. Wing is movement. Breath is your ranged attacks, your firepower, absolutely. And then lattice for kind of your, not necessarily a catch-all, but I definitely see the structure there for it. So it looks like different types of mechs have different strengths in different areas, all depending on whether you want to be a brawler, which looks like the Drake might be ideal for that.
Yeah, and I mean, like the different silhouettes, like stat-wise, pretty much the only thing they do is they just make sure that you specialize in one of the stats, and what really separates the silhouettes isn't actually the stats. What really separates them is their once per session and once ever abilities, right? Because these decisions about what mech you fly, right? This isn't Lancer, this isn't Beam Saber. These are not frames, they're not builds, they're silhouettes. They are about very much the kind of guy you want to be and the kind of role that you want in this episode of television.
They are a concept that you are going to cut and mold into a defined shape.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that outcome is not going to be like a hardcore mechanic. Ooh, my mechanical role is so different. That's not really how this game works. It's just about, what are you most excited about describing? What makes you feel cool right now? And how do you want to have an impact on this conflict, right? Do you want to specialize in hacking stuff and controlling it? Do you want to stand in front of your friends and like break the enemies wide open? Like it is
what speaks to your
it's
character?
vibes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's vibes.
Yeah, I love a good vibes-based mythopoetic tragic game about mechs.
Yeah, we're all
This
about
question-
vibes-based tragedy here.
Yes. That's great. This question was asked earlier, and I think we're at the point to address it. Can you make mega mechs? Which, again, this question came from Monique.
Combiners?
I have to imagine that
Like
does
a
mean like a
Megazord.
Megazord. Yeah, or
Yeah,
a Voltron.
I assume that this means a Megazord,
Yeah.
and nobody has done it yet. There isn't a rule that says you can't.
Okay. So we
You
can
could,
absolutely
with
airboat
the,
this.
this sounds like to me.
No, we
to
leave.
me,
You
this
could
sounds
probably
like,
do a refrain with it.
That's what I'm thinking. I
Okay.
feel like refrains, because one of the things you can do with refrains is you harmonize them, right? You can just sing
Okay.
them by yourself and do weird stuff in the world. But there's a mechanic where also multiple pilots can sing their own refrains at once, and they change and combine and make something weird. That sounds a lot like combining mechs to me. So,
Sure.
like we're not going to write this in the book or anything, but if you're playing this and you're like, oh, I want to combine mechs, maybe that's one way you could do it, if you wanted to approach it that way. But,
You could also just
it just seems
do-
like a fun thing. Yeah, you
You
can
could
you can
probably
also
also.
just do it.
It depends on your table. It's up to you. Whatever. I'm
Yeah.
not your dad.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. Even in mech stories or giant robot stories where combining isn't part of it, because Voltron, Power Rangers, that is a major crux of the
Yeah.
storyline. But then you get things like even in Transformers, in Gundam, you'll get things where you'll have a character with like a sniper rifle and they put it on the shoulder of another mech or robot to stabilize it, and even then that feels again like harmonizing that
sick.
refrain. It's great.
It's
yeah,
so
when
That's
cool.
awesome, yeah.
they're not fully combining, but it's just like it's that assist right there, or fastball special. That's really great. I think those are neat. So customizing the mechs seems, kind of built in anyway. Make your mech look like whatever you want it to look.
Yeah.
Are there rules for customizing and like improving your
Yeah.
mech? Awesome.
So
Yeah.
during countdown, one of the actions you can take is refit. And
Okay.
refit allows you. Wait, was it refit or did we change what it was called? I can't
It's
remember.
either refit or retrofit, surely.
There's
One of
a
those
move
two.
you can do during countdown that lets
It
you
starts
increase a
free.
stat.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
increase.
I-
You can increase any stat up to a maximum of 3, and bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, I'll also say specifically like the question of like, customization, upgrading. That is something that is super important and prevalent in other mech games that we actually really consciously steered away from here. And this goes back to one of my original thoughts about what is a dragon. A dragon is not a modular entity that you have perfect control over. A dragon is a mythic thing. It is cut from whole cloth. You have inherited it. It has been given to you or you have earned it, and it is not really like that gameplay of swapping things in and out and completely customizing it so that it like really reflects you. No, your dragon is its own thing. And you are connected to it, you're bound to it, but you don't have control over it the same way that you have control over your mechs in other games. And I think that's very important.
Another reason why character advancement in that way isn't that big of a deal is, quite frankly, because character death happens a lot in this game. We have our ongoing playtest campaign has done 5 sessions. 6. It's done 6 sessions, and in 4 of those, a character has died. And in the last one, 2 almost died.
So have a backup character. Don't get attached.
Making a character super
quick.
quick. Making a character is super quick. Don't worry about that. What I've actually found is really, really interesting is we've had two characters have been here since the beginning at this point. Every other character that started this adventure has passed in some way or another.
Right.
We are now incredibly attached to those 2 characters as a play group.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where when Quinn's character almost died during our last session, I was like, okay, so this is gonna happen, Quinn. And Quinn said, let me make you a deal.
Okay.
Let me hit you with this. And offered, let me use this refrain so that I don't die.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay. how can we make this work? Because we have to respect what happened here. We have to respect the drama of it. But yeah, refrains let you do anything. Let's just make sure that this is still has like that impact. And we basically boiled down to Quinn's character survived, his mech completely destroyed, and Quinn's HP fully annihilated.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can be really loose with this. There's a lot of playing off book in this game,
For sure.
but it gives you all of that like foundational guidance to make all of that work.
I
Which
really
to
like,
digress.
no, that's great. I really like that. This is a game that I think there's some games where it's like it may be a heavy concept, but you can kind of play a little goofy. This is definitely a game that I think is potentially at its best when it is played incredibly serious, when you have these characters, like you said, that have survived longer than any other, that have that resentment, perhaps, that they could play into for new characters that are coming on, these greenhorns, that have that survivor's guilt. When you have that concept that we're all just cannon fodder, like this mission could be our first and last. I think that's so cool, and I think that's why I always try to shout this out when game designers put this in their games, but I think especially important for this game is your inclusion of safety tools, which I always really appreciate seeing. I love seeing that it's becoming more and more common, but always to be reminded of and to be included in the game, I think is great. So I just wanted to really celebrate you guys for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
We knew that we wanted to include them, and I can see Quinn vibrating because they really, really want to talk about something that you just said, to the point of like this game works really, really good when it's serious. Absolutely true. But Quinn has run two different playtest sessions that were complete like world creation, completely non-serious.
Okay.
Still ended up.
Please say more about that, because I'm a very like tell jokes at the table kind of GM.
Totally.
And I love this game, and I would love to. My biggest worry is I will goof through too much.
Yeah. So what happens?
Focus.
I think that's
focus on the fast food one.
Okay. Yes, I think that one is more clear cut. So that is a question that I definitely had people ask about the game. Is that they're like, well, this game seems a little serious. What if I like to be a little goofy? And the answer is basically you can start out as goofy as you like, and you can goof as much as you like during it. The game, if I may be so bold, is written so well that it will just be serious anyway. Like so a good example is I ran a great playtest game with my Saturday morning group, great people in there, and one of them during setting creation was like, listen, I've got a pitch. I don't know if it's going to throw off the vibes. And I was like, you should try it. And so we had an entire setting that was based on fast food. The planet that we were from was like the initial pitch was, what if it was just a planet-sized Denny's? And so then we were like, okay, how do we work with this? And then it became Den-ni, the cosmic ovum. And it was a planet-sized egg. And then that spun out into like the Outback Empire was one
Outback Empire
faction. Or how about, you guys might not know this, there's a breakfast chain in the United States called the Egg and I. And so this got turned into a faction called the Egg and I. And this was like a subversive spy faction within Den-ni. Right, and they were like worshippers of the cosmic egg and wanted it to hatch. And so like this like you can be as weird and goofy and like leaning into aesthetic as you want, but as you play, the themes are so ingrained in everything that you're doing that it's really, really hard to rock the boat so hard that it tips. You can rock it, you can make jokes, you can goof, all of that is just kind of absorbed into the game, and it's okay. Like, it's genuinely just, it's okay. The game doesn't break when you do that.
I've got one more to contribute here.
Yeah.
The very, very first playtest session that we did, dear friend of ours and long-running player in that campaign, Kevin Wynn of Win Conditions, did Volley Boys and Bro is a Gated Doc. His character's name was John Deere.
Okay.
And That was the first character to die in session 1, and it still made us weep.
Okay.
The game just works.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I
real
guess
quickly-
it should have been an intergalactic harvester.
Yeah,
If I could suggest for your diner galaxy, Waffle House has become Waffle House, Waffen House. I'm sorry. And they've always been at war, because I think there's always fights at the Waffen House.
That's pretty good.
If I could just throw that out there, but
that is very in theme with that universe.
Yeah.
Real quick, there's a question in the chat that I really
Yes.
like.
Please.
The Lady Dame says, refrains and harmonize. What made you
Yes.
decide to incorporate the language of music into this?
Yeah, Quinn.
Oh, I didn't know if. Well, I don't know. I
You
talk
asked
a
the
lot.
question.
I did.
So
I can answer if
the
you'd
big
like.
thing here is that's all just poetry.
Mhm.
It's all just poetry, language, or like music and song. That's all just poetry. We really wanted refrains in here as a mechanic, and refrain was just the straightforward word to use for it because it's a phrase. And if the story that we're telling is a poem is made up of stanzas, lines, and refrains.
Mhm.
Give the pilots the refrains, give them that direct power to write their portion of the story. And it just hits so thematically well that when we knew that we wanted people to be able to do these things together. So what do you do when you do a song together? You harmonize. You mix these things together. 2 voices, more voices become one. The language just worked really well. And as soon as we came up with those terms for this mechanic, that, let me be clear here, is whispers from Wild Sea. Once we brought that language in, that actually helped us open up to, there's other ways that we can be doing things like stuff like this with language.
Really well. The reason, so like, and I think specifically, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to, but like in Wild Sea, maybe you know, maybe you don't. In Wild Sea, the way whispers work is your character physically actually says these words. These words are extant in the world. They're alive in their own way, and you whisper them, or you say them, or you shout them, and your character physically does that. And we just wanted it to be. I wanted to bring it one step back from being quite so literal and physically interned. I wanted it to be a tiny bit more on the metaphorical side. And instead of being your character with their mouth says or sings this thing, it's more like this is something in their heart. And the singing isn't with their voice. The song is in them and from them and metaphysical and expands out of their chest and into the world in a way that they're not really doing intentionally. You, the player, are triggering this, but the character, it's this meta narrative, metaphysical meta thing.
Actually, specifically, I have the demo here. I actually specifically wanted to look up how we describe refrains in the text because I think that it really hits and just adds more onto what we're saying. Refrains are your torment manifest. They are words that allow the pilot to change the world however they see fit. New refrains arise in a pilot's heart during intense moments of drama, tension, or self-shaking events. They sprout from the void when the stars reach back, when the abyss holds them close, and when their hearts reach out to another. War has torn your heart so horribly that your words can break the sky.
Yeah.
Like it's poetry through and through.
Yeah.
That's
also the demos are available on dynaberrypress.com. Any order of $20 or more. It's a free demo included, or you can just buy the print demo for $5.
Yeah.
Always be plugging.
Would the conundrum surrounding lattice as a stat possibly be solved by incorporating that metaphor? It's an interesting question.
Staff.
It's an interesting question.
Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that.
We're putting a pin in it. It's an interesting approach. Thanks for the comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that at this point we have covered quite a bit of Dragon Reactor, a lot of the really, really cool stuff about it. Without giving, again, everything away, I highly recommend checking out the demo. Is there anything else that either of you would like to spotlight about this? Anything that you think is like left on the cutting room floor that you'd like to particularly spotlight during our chat?
I think I would love to talk about anchors.
I would too. I feel like the last couple
anchors
interviews
can be
have been
like the
like,
last
dang, I want to
thing.
talk about anchors.
Anchors can be like the last thing that we kind of talk about here. So anchors are your connections to the world. They are key non-player characters that your pilot cares about for some reason. It doesn't have to be a positive relationship. Some of them are not.
So like, I really need to kill this guy kind of thing?
Well, that's your rival.
Sure, okay.
There are rivals too, and one of the rivals, the noble, has the ability to establish himself as an anchor for any pilot.
Okay.
But anchors specifically are a person from your past or that you meet throughout the course of the campaign that you care about the opinion of. And they are tracked via moments throughout a conflict. The poet can establish a positive or negative moment depending on how a die roll goes. And whenever a clock of 4 fills up with moments, you get to have a scene during countdown with that anchor that reflects that. This is another way for your characters to grow outside of just each other, to give pilots a further interest in the world, as well as a less material way that the poet can kind of twist the knife on certain actions. It kind of acts like another health bar because it is another negative consequence that you can give, but it is also very, very, very fiction forward in a way that's very satisfying.
Yeah, and creating anchors is, I think, really fun. A character creation, you usually create one, but there's room for more. One thing also that I like about anchors that I now that we've come up with it, I want to see it in more games. But in the list of things that you come up with about your anchor, one of them is vocal quality, which is like describe what they sound like. And for a character that the poet is going to be playing, that is really actionable information. Insofar as that's something that you want to do with the table, like that's something I like to do. But I like that's just a detail that I want to call out because I think that's
it is
yeah.
pretty cool to be able to be like, what does this person sound like? How do they speak? What is their vibe? Because guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to be talking to them.
Yeah. And that's not something that is like normally written down about a character. It's just an unusual thing to think about.
And since I mentioned it, I'll take a quick hop over to Rival Central, because we all love mech stories and we all love rivals and we all love enemies to lovers stories. I don't need to say anything else here. Every pilot has room for a rival on their character sheet, and just one. And these are big characters that you are going to be encountering, and when they show up on a conflict, it's bad for you when they show up. Similar to pilots, rivals have archetypes. You'll notice that the pilot archetypes are very like modern-ish and kind of sci-fi leaning, whereas the rival archetypes are very fantasy and fiction. We have the revenant, we have the soldier, the noble, the warlock, and these rivals all also have once a conflict move that they can do. For the noble, it is establish themselves as an anchor for any of the pilots who are present. For the warlock, it is steal and use a refrain. So not even your character sheets are safe from these little dickheads. And they work differently than regular enemies that you encounter, and they are repeat characters that get stronger the more you fight them. They're very, very key to the structure and the storytelling, and maybe you can kiss them.
Maybe. You know, I do think, like, the important thing about the rivals, kind of from a purely mechanical point of view, we, at a certain point, we did a rework. We're like, these rivals, they're cool and all, but they're not really, don't have as big of an impact. And
There's not
we
enough juice.
Right, and so we reworked them so that these once per conflict, the idea of the rival is that when a rival shows up, it changes the course of the conflict. They warp the shape of the conflict around them. You have to deal with them in some way. And so you have rivals with abilities, like there's one rival where the more you hit them, the worse things get for you. And then there's another rival where you have to kill them or you have to defeat them in order to continue working towards your own victory as a faction, right? So the whole point of a rival is that it changes the angle that you approach the conflict from. You can think of them as kind of similar to like in a roguelike game when you select a modifier for a room or whatever, and it's like, oh, this room has like this weird twist to it. Rivals kind of have a similar effect on conflicts in the way that they force you to adjust your approach at a gameplay level, right? Because like for all of our talk about poetry and vibes, all of that's true. We also are very like tactile, gameplay focused designers as well. And we have been thinking about that at kind of every point along the design. It's also a really mechanically, tactically satisfying, fun game to play. In addition to all of the other great narrative stuff about it. It's almost like we made a good game or something.
I think it's, yeah, I would say you did. I would say you did, from what I've seen so far. A question from Anika, hypothetically. The hypothetically, I'm sure, is in the biggest quotations. If someone were to run this as a two-shot, I know that you mentioned that you've been going on for 6 sessions now. So to shorten this down to a two-shot, are there any rules or anything that you would tweak to accommodate for that shorter format?
No. It works.
You've got the
it
demo.
Works as a one
demo
shot.
works.
It works as long as you want. The demo is perfect for a 1 or 2 shot.
Yeah.
So essentially, like either do one mission that would stretch over the 2 sessions, or 2 short missions that maybe
it would be
just,
2
like,
missions.
collaborate with one
So
another.
It would be 2 missions.
The kind of ideal structure. One conflict can take 2 to 3 hours. So it's 1 session per conflict. There is some loose guidance in the final version of the game for like if a conflict needs to take multiple, like if you were to do a cliffhanger or something, or how you would bleed something in, or actually that's something Quinn and I still need to write up. But it works perfect as like a single session is one thing. It's very episodic in that way.
Yes. Yeah, and it was definitely designed that way to have that that elasticity, right, to be able to be right sized for anything. I've got to say, like right now, it's one of my favorite one-shot games to just pull out
one-shot game
and just be like, oh man,
No
we're all
prep.
sitting around, we want to play some. There's no prep. It comes together like all the setup stuff. Like world creation, character creation, all of that, about 30 minutes flat, and then the conflict takes like an hour and a half if you run it quick, and it's perfect. It's so bite-sized.
It does depend on how the dice rolls go, for sure.
It depends on how the dice. It depends on the dice. But you know, so I really think I think it's a great back pocket game, frankly.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
it is one of my favorite things with one-shots to kind of leave them on a cliffhanger. Yes, you succeeded.
Absolutely.
But what are the implications afterwards? Or even, you know, much like we were saying, where this whole structure of endless warfare is reactionary. You've succeeded on the mission of defend the city. Now that the city is probably ruined, and now you need to escort somebody out, or you need to face off against your rival outside. It flows into the next mission. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, we
like
did
you said, you have your overall thing you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, we did a great recorded actual play with the Spellbook Gaming channel on YouTube where, no spoilers, but Nova did end that on a cliffhanger and an absolute banger of one. So
I'm kind
if,
of
if
really
any
good
of
at
you
running this game.
folks, yeah, if any
Practice
of you
makes
folks
perfect, yeah.
want to check out this game kind of in action, we do go through all of the setup and character creation stuff. So it's an awesome preview of some of those things that are going to be in the full game. If you're like, I really want to see this in action, you can see it in action there. We should do some more actual plays of it because it's fun.
It's very
Well,
fun.
again, I think the
Yeah.
hypothetical that Anik was saying was in pretty big quotations. I have to imagine
Oh,
this
sure.
will be featured here relatively soon, because this
please
is
do.
up the
Yeah,
up
have
the
fun
alley
with
of I
it.
think several folks here. We have a weird like micro niche of pirate games, mech games, horror games, and tragic games. So I think that like this maybe we'll do like a pirate mech. Maybe who knows?
You could
Oceanic Road or
totally do
something.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
you could do that so cool. There's so many ways to do that, like mechs or
Space
pirate
Captain. It's
ships.
just hey, this is just Space Captain
Space-
Harlock, is what you're describing. You're
There is
describing
that.
Harlock.
I
You
am.
are
I absolutely
describing
am.
that.
Yeah. There's no original
But what about
ideas.
like?
Absolutely.
But what about like underwater mechs? Like it's like instead of space, it's all underwater. There's I
You're
don't know.
describing now you're describing BioShock.
Fuck. So but the thing is that every time I talk about this game, every time we're on a podcast about this game, I end up having like 3 ideas for settings that I just really want to try out. And I think also just a quick thing here. This is one of my favorite things about this game is setting agnosticism. This is something
Yeah.
that me and Nova both really give a shit about when we design stuff. We love setting agnosticism. In my case, it's because I love frameworks. I love the contrast between a narrative framework and the skin you put on it, right? I love superhero comics, and they all have the same framework, but then you put different characters and different powers into it, and it's different in interesting ways. And so
Right.
a setting agnostic game with this, we are giving you such a robust narrative skeleton. What happens when you introduce a weird setting to that? What happens when you have a bunch of other unique rules and laws and technologies? How does that change the skeleton, and how does that interact with it? So that's just like, to me, a big part of the joy of playing this game is making that thing that's just for you and has this really cool stuff happening. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Solid.
If I could offer underwater mechs, maybe think of the Hunt for Red October, but with mechs, and all the mechs are Sean Connery. Just throw that out there.
Exactly.
Different versions.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
of
think
Sean.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's
No,
pretty
I
good.
mean,
yeah,
we should
pretty
have
good.
put that in the demo, frankly.
We should have put Sean Connery in the demo.
Well,
I guess, but whatever.
there's still time for the final product. Thank you both so very much for this wonderful discussion, for bringing Dragon Reactor to us here at Sword and Tea. Before we fully wrap up, there's another question that again was asked by Anik, and I wanted to address it before we fully wrapped up. I believe the question is, what would you say is the win condition in the game? You're in space and everything is fucked. As I think we'll be running it relatively soon. Is there a win condition? What does that win condition look like?
So I'm going to put on a fun little hat here for a moment. There is no win condition in Dragon Reactor. We
Sure.
don't ascribe one to you. It is up to you to figure out what that win condition is. My genuine answer for You're in Space is the same. It depends on the story that you're telling. It depends on the degree to which you're playing it. You know, maybe you're Isaac Clarke and your win condition is blowing up the marker at the center of the USG Ishimura, right? But really, truly, and this is the corniest shit I have ever said recorded, it's having fun. Like, the win condition for You're in Space is having fun, tearing your friends apart at the table and making them fight weird, fucked up monsters. That's exactly what this game is all about. You want to be scared, you want to be silly, you want to have a good time, you want fucked up monsters. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you look at something like Alien. Did Ripley win at the end of it? Because
Technically.
kind of like her entire crew
Until the second movie came out.
Until the second movie, right? That's the. It's like there's a win with like the ellipses after it. It's always just the end
be
question
continued.
mark. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You know, you got a cat out of it.
And
now,
I mean, yeah, Dead Space fans know what happened to Isaac Clarke.
Yeah.
He's totally fine.
Event Horizon. Yeah.
They went great.
Oh God, Event Horizon's so good.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I should
Again.
see if my
There's your
computer
answer.
wants to run the Dead Space remake yet. It hasn't wanted to so far. Maybe it'll let me now.
It's a pretty good remake. But also,
I want to play it so bad. My computer doesn't want to run it. I need more RAM.
Quinn, Nova, thank you again so
back,
very much for joining us.
back Dragon Reactor so that Quinn can
Yes.
get more RAM and play the Dead Space
Yeah,
remake.
yeah.
Yes,
Come
and you can back Dragon Reactor. I believe there are 4 days. I'm gonna double check right now because you've got a.
Well,
little
let's be
timer.
clear.
The
There's 4 days
campaign-
until the campaign begins.
Yes, 4 days,
Yes.
21 hours, 1 minute, and 3 seconds left until launch. So I recommend going to BackerKit right now and signing up so that getting your email so that you can be notified when Dragon Reactor launches, and so
Please.
that you can back it and you can get a wonderful copy for yourself. And in the meantime, check out the demo. It is pay what you want. Toss a couple of bucks. I mean, it's a really cool demo. You're gonna get several pages. I'm saying you're gonna get
it is 40
31
pages. 31
Yeah.
pages. Yeah. The
31
demo
pages.
is essentially a full game.
Yeah,
And
full
I
game,
think
just a
not
one-shot.
enough people realize this. It is a full game that you could just run and just play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do also want to just take a moment to plug that Quinn and I will at some point be doing our own live stream and AMA, where we play Armored Core 6 co-op and answer any and all of your questions about Dragon Reactor and mech stuff. We don't have a date for that yet, but we will be doing it probably sometime after Gen Con.
Great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like
to that
mid-August.
point, where can folks find either of you on socials?
You can find me and all the stuff we do on Blue Sky, Dynaberry Press. You can find me at Dicey Nova. That's DICEYNOVA. You can also join the Dynaberry Press Discord, bytes.rip/discord, dynaberrypress.com, and just kind of all over itch. We just have a lot of stuff on there. Go check it out. Quinn?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky at 200proofgames.bsky.social. You can also find my work, a few blog posts, and the One E Manifesto at 200proof.games. And either of those places, you'll be able to find the link to my itch stuff, or you can get any percent if you want. Any percent if you want physical copies. Tabletop Bookshelf had some. They sold out. So bug Tabletop Bookshelf to buy some more. And tell them, oh yeah, I want a physical copy of any percent. Yep. Oh, you can also find me another cool thing that I do if you're into it is I have a podcast with my friend Matt Fennell called Urasawa Boys, where we read and do media analysis on the manga by author and artist Naoki Urasawa. So that's Monster, 20th Century Boys, Pluto. We have our first season was on Monster, and we just are wrapping up our season on Pluto now. So if you're familiar with any of this guy's work, or you just want to hear a couple of people sort of geek out and dive into some of the nitty gritty of that artistic stuff, I think we do really good work over there. So Urasawa Boys.
Awesome. Great. Anything else that either of you would like to plug, promote, any other way that we can support you and the awesome work that you do?
Dynaberry Press, we do have a YouTube channel. My wife, Jam, the literal other half of Dynaberry Press, she does monthly postcard dungeons, craft videos, all sorts of stuff. That's youtube.com/@Dynaberry Studio. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Dynaberry Press, where you can get those.
Fantastic.
And bytes.rip/dreams for Dragon Reactor.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, again, I highly recommend checking out all those links, especially, like I said, sign up for the backer kit alert for when Dragon Reactor goes live with its launch here in just a few days. Check out the demo in the meantime. Again, you're going to toss $50 for a TTRPG book. This is pay what you want. It's a mostly complete. I mean, it is a complete demo. It has, as mentioned, almost everything that's going to be in the final product. Put a couple bucks. their way. It's important to support TTRPGs and especially indie TTRPGs. So always very, very much appreciated. Thank you again to Denneberry Press, to 200 Proof Games, to Quinn, to Nova. This has been Sword and Tea. This is our cozy chat show. This is a Sword and Key stream. I am Derek Sword. It's he, him pronouns. If you want to find more of Sword and Key stuff, please check out beacons.ai/sword and key, all one word. You can find all of our links there. We have our socials, which are Instagram and Blue Sky. We have links to our Discord. You can hang out with cool folks and talk about cool things like this game. For future Sword and Teas, we have a chat there where you can post questions about those games. We have several other Sword and Teas coming up here soon. You can also see links to all of our affiliates. We have a number of great affiliates like Long Dog Dice, who make custom dice. Jen is the wonderful person behind that. Actually has official Sword and Key dice that you can pre-order at this time for our nautical pirating game Horizon's Call. They're really pretty blue with little flakes of copper in them. We also have links to, I'm sorry, you can use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase with Long Dog Dice. You can also use code Sword and Key for 10% off your first purchase with Eldritch Foundry. They make custom minis for TTRPG characters, no matter how weird and wild, normal and mild your TTRPG character might be. We also have an affiliate link for Hit Point Press. They make Humblewood and Islands of Siena Una and animated spell cards. Tons of great stuff. Please use your affiliate link if you're going to be shopping with them. We, as you scroll down on Beacons even more, have links to our charitable organizations. Right now, we are putting money and time towards Doctors Without Borders through our Saturday games. We also have an evergreen link for Palestine Children's Relief Fund, Canine Companions for Independence, and a few others that will be coming up here soon. We also have some Pally links if you would like to tip a cast and crew of a couple of our games. We also have links to the podcast Monster Crush. It's a podcast with my friend LD, and you can find it anywhere podcasts are found. We talk about different cryptids, creatures, miscellaneous monsters from myth, and how switchable they are. It is a monster fucking podcast. But we also just love monsters in general and love talking about them. So check it out wherever podcasts are found. We should have an episode out either here today or tomorrow. And we'll be taking a little bit of a hiatus after a little summer break. So we'll be taking about a month off after this episode comes out. So it's a great time to catch up on our backlog. For other Sword and Key stuff, looking at our calendar, it is kind of a quiet week here at Sword and Key, but that's okay. After this, on Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we have the finale of Fragments of Loss. That is our Rangers of Broken World game. That is raising money for Trans Lifeline, and that's run by Angela, Phoenix 24 Femme. It's a really great game. I know it's the finale, but there's still time to catch up on the backlog, which you can do through our Twitch VODs or also youtube.com/@swordandkey. And then the next thing, Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have our next Summer Slam, Sword and Key Summer Slam 2025 game, where we have pre-existing 5e characters from this channel facing off in 4 preliminary fights. We have had our first 2 fights, 2 finalists so far. The third one coming up here has a great lineup that is raising money for Doctors Without Borders, and we have some really great incentives to either cause chaos or to try to support your favorite champion that you would like to support for those games. Horizon's Call will be taking this week off. It will be back the 9th. Next week on the 3rd, August 3rd, that is Sunday, we have the finale of Blood on the Lens. That is our horror game run by Anik. We have already had one of the characters get killed off in this slasher TTRPG, so who knows how many will make it to the end. Nice. And then after that, we have our next Sword and Tea at 3 p.m. Pacific time with Pinup Monster Girls with Josh Jenny from Leopard Print Press, which is going to be really fun. After that, on Tuesday the 5th, we have Gate Night back. That's our Tuesday Baldur's Gate 3 stream, and even more stuff after that. Thursday, the 7th, is the beginning of the Magnus Archives TTRPG, which will be a 4-week run by Mare, and that is going to be raising money also for Doctors Without Borders. So tons of great stuff. Our calendar is always listed on our Discord. We have our events there, as well as the Google Calendar, which you can check out as well. So check all of that out. Again, thank you to you 2 wonderful people, Quinn, Nova. It's been absolutely great having you. We hope to have you back for even more future projects, as it sounds like you are always busy, have a million works in progress that you're going through, if not even more than that. So for whatever comes next, we wish you the absolute best of luck. Wish you the best of luck with Dragon Reactor. From what we have seen, it is a great game, and we hope that the word spreads, and that we'll feature here very relatively soon. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing this great game with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
we are going to raid Rekalai, who is a friend of the channel, and perhaps coincidentally is a mech builder, Gundam model builder. So Rack is putting together a Gundam model right now. So go spread some positivity over there. Be
Oh,
kind to
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
and others. Yeah. And take care. We'll see you soon for whatever comes next.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.